Good day. Is it a good day? Yes, it's a great day because we have Lyle Corbijn here with us today. I'm really excited. I don't know about you, and I don't know how to say fans of movies. Is it cinephile? No, that sounds terrible. I don't know. I'm just making up words as I go along. I do that. I'm Tracy Kleckel Jimenez, and like I said, I'm really excited here to have a former CLC student who is taking off with film and film production. Before we start, I have a couple of announcements, other than make sure and silence your phones or turn them off, maybe would be better because we are showing his short film. Also, Prairie Bay, the Mad Hugger Cafe here on campus, is serving pan-fried walleye on cranberry rice with cheesy au gratin potatoes down in the cafeteria. Also, the Diversity and Global Connections Club has some Mexican café de olla, or pot coffee that's been made in a pot, right outside the theater here, because today is Dia de los Santos and tomorrow Dia de los Muertos. So there's a display set up right outside the box office there if you'd like to take a look and try some dead bread, or from the Long Prairie Bakery, Mexican Bakery Pan de Vida. So in conjunction with Native American History Month, Central Lakes College will explore modern Anishinaabe culture and identity through film for today. We are hosting Lyle Mitchell Corbijn Jr., who will lead us in an informational session on his filming of the short Shinab. And I'm going to let Lyle talk a little bit about his work before we start the film. So please welcome Lyle with your applause.
Hi, my name is Lyle Corbijn. I was a student here about 10 years ago. I don't even know where to start. Like, I'm supposed to talk about kind of how I got into film. I kind of, so there's a food writer who's like the first food writer to ever win a Pulitzer Prize in food writing, and he always talked about how he felt like he was a failed musician. And I feel like I failed. Well, I failed in school. I was a high school dropout. I ended up getting my GED like immediately and coming here and then going to the U of M. But I also kind of failed in school both times, and I failed as a musician. I was a musician for many years, and I wasn't able to make that work. I was kind of a failed photographer, a visual artist. I kind of tried my hand at a lot of things, and I love those mediums, but I wasn't able to pull it off. So I always loved film. So when I realized that filmmaking was an option, this practice of being a musician, of being a visual artist, of I wanted to be a novel writer too, and I failed at that. But I had all these skills that I sort of failed at, but they all kind of came together in one medium, because you need to know visual arts to be a filmmaker a little bit. You need to know how to talk to musicians when you're putting together how to create like the oral arc of a film, which you'll see. Sound design is something that I kind of place a lot of emphasis on in my films. So by the time I got around to actually taking filmmaking seriously, I kind of had a lot of skills. I knew how to talk to musicians. I knew how to write a little bit, and I knew how to kind of express things visually. And all of those things kind of, I think, put me ahead in a lot of ways than somebody who maybe just, was into film like exclusively. So when I got to the U of M, I started running the film club there, and I got really involved with kind of the writerly, like creative writing program. And yeah, so I mean, the last 10 years have been sort of like crazy with their ups and downs. And in the last 3 years, I had my short film Shanab play at Sundance, which is the hardest, like, or the most exclusive sort of film festival to get into. Like they take in about 10,000 submissions every year, and they play about 50 to 60 to 7 or 50. They're doing 50 and 70 every year. So the odds are really kind of stacked, you know, to just kind of fail there. But I happened to make it through, and it kind of jump started my career. And I made so this is Shanab. I made Shanab Part 2, which played at the Toronto International Film Festival, which is the second biggest in North America. So that was in September. Yeah, so if we could start the film.
I used to go down to the rice fields and rice all day and sell our rice, get the money, buy some school clothes, buy some beer. Mostly all the kids would do that. They don't really do that anymore, but yeah, it's the only way to make money. Struggled, son.
Try to live up to him. He's this big casino CEO. Intimidating. He always seems so critical of me. Seems like I can't really do much right. But he's important. Too busy for feelings. I get it. Sorry. I don't even know why I'm talking about this.
Here's the check.
What are you talking about? You're not autistic.
Yeah, but what if I am?
You gotta stop calling me in the middle of the night.
I'm sorry, Dad.
Why don't you come up for the powwow? I can't even remember the last time you were up here.
Everyone up there always makes fun of me.
We poke fun at each other. It's something we do.
Yeah, but it always just feels so mean-spirited. You know, just because I like to wear scarves in the winter doesn't make me a sissy. Are you laughing at me?
Just, think about coming up here.
Didn't see you at the party, Wesley.
Sit wherever you'd like.
Is Don working here today?
Not until 9.
Are you native?
Peruvian.
Okay.
I can't stop thinking about how it must have been. The bed was free. All this was wild and we were in it. It's like some bomb went off and we're here walking around in the aftermath. I want to harvest the fields too. That's how I want to live. it's a good thing you're down there. The rice fields are empty now. You said our tribe has riced the lake for thousands of years. We took too much.
All right, so that's it. Sure.
I just want to give a little bit of credit to Amanda Small for bringing Lyle to me, because she said she knew you when you were little, right? And she made the suggestion that this would be a very interesting Cultural Thursday. So thank you, Amanda, for bringing Lyle to us. Yeah. And Mary Sam is also here. She's the Director of Equity and Inclusion here at Central Lakes College. And so we're going to conduct a question and answer session here. If you have a question, if you could raise your hand, either Amanda or I will bring you the mic. And then if you could stand, that'll help with those who are watching from home. Sound like a plan?
Sure.
Bonjour, Machita Zibikwe Indigenous. My name is Mary Sam. I'm the Dean of Students, Equity and Inclusion. Welcome, everybody. And miigwech, that means thank you. Thank you, Lyle. That's the first time I've seen that film, and my body is shaking a little bit. That was incredibly powerful. Very, very powerful. So what inspired your work? And can you talk a little bit about what it's like doing this dance that we do, living in two worlds of being Native people in this westernized society? What inspired this piece today?
Well, I was working in Minneapolis. I was working for my dad. Which is why both Mary and Amanda know me. Oh, sorry. So, you know, I always had a little bit of imposter syndrome. You know, I've just kind of danced in two worlds for my whole life, and kind of maybe felt a little bit like I wasn't a part of either. And the reasons why maybe I don't feel a part of, like, you know, the native world is maybe has to do with the fact that, or that native culture is sort of maybe falling apart a little bit, or it's not as complete as it once was, obviously for historical reasons. And the other part is, I mean, like, you know, I went to a pretty good college, and, you know, all my friends were, you know, filmmakers, and that's what primarily kind of white, or, you know, not necessarily white, but, you know, non-native sort of medium. So there's always kind of like that, you know, pull in me. You know, I want to go back to live on a reservation, but I want to be a filmmaker. So there's that kind of just cognitive dissonance, I suppose. So this was kind of just like a visual. It's a silly film to me, because it was initially a comedy. It's supposed to be scene after scene after scene of him sort of just kind of failing to, like, connect with someone, and by the end he's, you know, having this spiritual moment with the teepee, which isn't even like Anishinaabe isn't. That's not even like a teepee isn't even an Anishinaabe thing, but he's so kind of starved for just some sort of meaning that he finds it for a second, and then it's like, you know, taken away. So that was kind of the joke. Like, to me, that ending was a joke. So yeah, this was just kind of like a visual representation of the struggle that I have as kind of a native guy, but also, you know, trying to make it work in non-native communities.
What others?
Come for your jam.
Okay, you just spoke about the TP as maybe being the joke at the end. Well, from the Spanish background, I noticed that you had the statue of Don Quixote de la Mancha. Do you want to speak to Don Quixote being in that one scene? Tell me if there was any meaning behind that, because I think there probably was.
I was shooting at my friend's house, and I noticed that he had that statue, and so I just had my camera guy shoot it. And then when we were in editing, I kind of thought maybe it would be interpreted as like a Spanish explorer, so I just put it in there, kind of as a joke, again. Yeah.
Oh, sorry, Gary.
Hi. You know, I sort of left hanging from that. That was starting to get sucked in to what you were doing there when it ended. I was wondering if you had part two already in mind, if this is supposed to be a series. Was this intended as a series if the first one was successful? Or?
I did make part two. I just played a festival. I it wasn't initially a sequel. I always kind of had it in the back of my mind that maybe I'd call it Chanel Part 2 because I just wanted to work with that actor again. He's a friend of mine, and I had just kind of off the cuff pitched the film to Sundance, and Sundance just had some extra money, and I didn't even have a script. I was kind of lying about having a script, and they were like, yeah, yeah, sure, yeah, just send us a script. So I went home and I wrote a script really fast. It was initially called Zacco, which means like to light a flame, the second part, and it I kind of like edited it for about a year and kind of had a hard time figuring out a way to contextualize the theme that I was trying to do. Basically, it was a struggle for a long time, but at the end I was just like, well, if I contextualize it as Shanab Part 2, there was a lot of similar themes in it that it would maybe add some more meaning to it. So I'm also making a Shanab Part 3 later, early next year.
What res are you from, Niji?
I'm from the Bad River Indian Reservation in northern Wisconsin. I went to Nashing, which is I think where Mary met me a long time ago. So I've lived probably on 3 or 4 reservations in my life, but I'm from Bad River. How about you?
Leech Lake Reservation.
Oh, okay. That's where Aj is from, the actor.
Other questions?
Hi. I wanted to ask you if you connect with other cultures that, with the filmmaking that this one, that makes a connection with other cultures are losing their way. As I don't want to say that we're white culture, but that we're all maybe losing our way in this country. You understand what I'm saying? Like,
Not really.
I was thinking, I was just watching your film, that it just seemed to me that like your culture is losing its way because of our culture that's today modern. So what I'm asking is, do you feel like we're all losing our way as a culture? Because we're not, like I said, we're going together, but we're not all assimilating.
I don't.
No, I'm just saying that. I just feel like that the film that you made, that with when he went up to the teepee, that he got shot at by, I don't know, it didn't show what kind of person shot, but because of that, he's scared to. He ran away, and like I said, I think we can all relate to that. What's happening today in today's political times. So I don't know if that was a connection or. So I'm just saying,
I always try to like defer away from the kind of grand political, especially politics. I'm sort of more or less apolitical. I mean, obviously bigotry is a big problem today, but I try to focus on and my work right now. I mean, this could change in the future, but I really am focusing on kind of really personal like how to derive meaning, like personal, like how to drive personal meaning out of storytelling and specifically like archetypal storytelling. This isn't really archetypal; it wasn't made to be a joke. But like I'm writing a feature right now called Wild Indian. Or I just finished writing. That is basically like a retelling of Cain and Abel, which is a story in the Bible, and it's native characters. It takes place on a reservation, and I don't know. That's a complicated question. You wanted to chime in on that, right?
That's a hard question, right? Because I think a lot of people are asking, where are we as a country, and without getting real political. When I viewed Lyle's film, and again, I would love to see this 4 or 5 times to just kind of absorb all the pieces, because I think there's lots of pieces that do speak to historical oppression and the violence that has taken place towards our native people throughout history in the United States, and the different scenes just really spoke to me in the visuals that you provided. Are we all losing our ways? What were our ways as a nation? Have we defined that as a nation? Are we inclusive as a nation? Do we take a look at historical who we are as Native people and current realities of Native people as a nation, let alone other racial, ethnic groups and new immigrants to this country as well? We're in a real tough place right now. The value of this film, there's not lots of words, but the imagery, and if we learn about historical oppression and racism, the imagery, Lyle, from my perspective, again, just kind of stabbed me in the heart with the realities as Native people that we dance in and live within all of the time. And in that last scene, with the teepee, I'm a deer hunter, and I'm a gatherer, and we have to work around all the native treaties and state laws and do that dance and walk and fish and hunt delicately for fear of people's reactions. And so you call that funny, right? That it was kind of a comedy piece. And for many, too, of us in our communities, that's a real harsh reality of the conflict in that daily life that we live. Other questions, other thoughts, reactions? And I also want to acknowledge Brainerd High School students that are here from our Indian Ed program. Miigwech for being here. It's really nice to have high school kids here. And it's not often that our own kids from other cultural groups get to see Native mentors and leaders. And so that's also a real value, that we get to see somebody that's as accomplished as you are to give us hope and inspiration, that we can follow our dreams and take risks as well. Question out there? Scott?
Hi, Lyle. Thank you. Very impressed with the clip. Question, did you have an intended audience? Were you thinking of an audience when you created this film? Because to me, none of it came off as a joke or a comedy at all. So, to hear you say that just kind of strikes me. So now I'm playing it back in my head, trying to think from your perspective, maybe how you saw it.
No, I didn't really have an audience, to be honest. To go into the story, I guess, of how I kind of got it made was I had gotten this fellowship with Sundance through their Native program. Was the first kind of like thing I'd ever just filmmaking award that I've ever gotten. And basically I kind of came out of that without really understanding any more about the industry, and I was kind of just felt like I had failed. But I had $10,000 to make a film, and I was like, I guess I'll just make this, and maybe I'll quit filmmaking and go back to school, get an MBA, I don't know. But so I made it kind of just, I wrote it in a night. I probably wrote it in an hour and a half, kind of just very fast. And sent it to the person who's helping me produce it, and we just put it together. We just put it together, and we spent the money in like 5 days, and I just started kind of cutting it together. I knew that, like, if this doesn't get into Sundance or something, because that was kind of what was expected of me. I was kind of making acultural films, like things that weren't really native by any means. So I knew that that's what was expected of me. Like, I was supposed to say some grandiose statement about being native, because that was kind of I mean, that's kind of just like like I said, what's expected of native filmmakers. And it happened. I mean, I just like made it really fast, and I wasn't really expecting anything to come of it, and it got in, and now I'm like, it's being taken very seriously, and to me it's a little silly that it is taken so seriously, because it's about this kind of goofy dude and misfit shirt, you know.
I really like the goofy dude.
I have a question too. Thanks, Lyle. I was wondering about whether the guy's shirt at the beginning was yellow, like the alleyway walls were yellow, if that was intentional for him blending in at all. And I was also wondering if you could talk about why, or what was the decision to have him ignore his coworker when he said, "I missed you at the party last night."
No, the yellow wasn't really intentional to blend in. It was kind of our color, like the part of the process is getting your film colored, and they kind of switch around the way everything looks. Like, it was popping in the way that when we shot it, so it was kind of I mean, it was like there's a lot of contrast there initially, so kind of felt it was kind of off-putting, so we kind of just had the colors kind of turn it down. So there's no meaning behind that. It was just a technical thing. What was the other question? I forgot.
Oh, I swear.
Oh. Stoic native man. Yeah.
So you reference a few different times how you do a dance between two separate worlds, whether it's in your life or in the actor's life. I think I'd mentioned or heard him mention that he was autistic, or his dad said, "Don't think that you're autistic." Do you feel like that's another example of feeling like you don't belong in both worlds because you're two separate groups that aren't necessarily understood, or the cultures aren't represented as well?
Yeah, absolutely. Like, it does feel like that sometimes. Like, the cultural sort of beats are different, and when you're kind of so mismatched on both sides, it can kind of feel like nothing's landing, and like maybe I'm just not, all there. Maybe I am autistic or something.
Exactly.
Yeah. So that was the feeling that kind of went into that statement.
As I'm walking, I'm going to ask a question, Lyle. Can you explain the mask in the cafe and in his home? Was there a meaning behind the mask?
Oh yeah, that was actually something that I had done. I went out to Halloween, or I went out for Halloween and dressed like that, and it was sort of like a really dramatic night in my life where I really felt like nothing wasn't. I mean, like, there were so many things that were going wrong in my life in that point, just family things and stuff on my reservation, and kind of like my attempt to be a filmmaker and just failure. So I dressed up like that one night. It was like a weird, desperate attempt to like connect, like maybe I'll get a laugh or something. And it wasn't. I showed up to these parties, and it was sort of like, it was like a different kind of. It was kind of like why Dave Chappelle quit the Chappelle show. It was like, yeah, I got some laughs and it was funny, but it was like the wrong kind of laugh. It was kind of like a butt of the, like, it was a weird kind of butt of the joke for that, where I was just kind of, it was like an innocent attempt to sort of be recognized as a Native person or something. So I had the makeup artist just paint the same face paint that I had, and showed him, like, there was just a shot of him at a party, kind of just just like a lonely shot of him at a party, with that face mask on.
Hi, Lyle. I wanted to ask you, the sound in the movie was so interesting, and then I was trying to think of it, it's also very visually powerful. If you were to take the sound out, the picture sort of tells a story as well. When you're writing or as you're composing, where does the sound come into it? Are you thinking of that as you're writing it? Does that come at a later stage, or do you primarily see it visual, or a combination of the two?
No, I don't really have that in mind as I'm writing. I write the story first, and then I figure out the tone later. It's sort of like pulling off my writer's hat, putting on my director's hat. And then I also edited the film too, and I felt like maybe the imagery was falling flat a little bit, and maybe it's some sort of insecurity, but I like to really amp up the auditory kind of sensation as well.
I've got to go because I got a class to teach, but I just want to say that if I was your best friend, I would be saying, Lyle, you're not failing, you're evolving. And I would encourage you to ride that train.
Not really failing anymore. I'm doing okay.
I will follow up.
You're definitely riding the train, I think. So, just an observation I had, the sense of place. You talk about dancing between two worlds, and you've got the urban setting, and you've got the reservation setting, and did I pick up something that, the rice isn't like it used to be? How does that sense of place fit?
Sorry, can you repeat the question? I had a hard time hearing you.
Okay, I'm sorry. How does the sense of place fit in this dancing between two worlds? You've got the urban setting in the film, and then starting out sort of with a more rural, maybe reservation type setting. Is that a part of this dance? Does that fit, or am I reading something in? Does that make
I mean, yeah,
sense?
it's certainly important that he's in a city. I don't know that it's important that it's necessarily Minneapolis. I think he's struggling with being in two different worlds, and visually it's important to sort of show that, for me at least, to show that as an extreme a way as I could with the little resources I had as a filmmaker. And being downtown Minneapolis was an easy way to show the difference between being in, the rice fields, or being in, which is the first shot, and being in downtown Minneapolis.
Well, none of us can speak on behalf of all Native people, but from your perspective, how important is place in terms of our homelands, our reservations, and the land? Can you speak to that in terms of identity and language, culture?
I don't know. I struggle with that one because it's, the people is the people, and the culture is the culture, and you can take the people away from the land, and the culture can remain relatively unaffected. I think things get complicated when your language is really, really tied to the geography. Yeah, I guess that's all I have to say about that.
I would just like to piggyback on that culture and language are really connected. And when you are no longer speaking the language, you lose some of the culture. And that is why it is so important to learn language and other languages, because you learn other perspectives on what it means to be a human being. Hi.
Right, Tracy? I have a question. So you kind of mentioned that
you made the film really quickly, and part of your perspective was it was kind of a joke. I was curious, how did your friend feel making it and being the actor and connecting and doing all these different pieces?
So I met Aj at this like little film festival, like a pay-to-play film festival, so not a real film festival. It's kind of like, people will make crappy little films and then pay $200 to like show them at a theater. It was at this one was at the Mall of America, and he was in this little student short horror film, and he was like the first one to die. But I thought he had this really good look, so I tracked him down afterward, and this is like late 2015, and we had kind of talked for about 9 months to a year about maybe doing something together. And I had this money from the Minnesota State Arts Board that I had to spend, and the project that I was initially supposed to do wasn't really something that I was interested in anymore. So I wrote the script really fast, and I was just like, yeah, let's do this project that we've been talking about, or just doing a project. I think he feels good being in the project because like immediately his career kind of took off. So I found him in a stupid little like horror film, like student horror film, and now he just led a $10 million movie. He is doing a lot of TV in Canada. He's been in like 3 or 4 movies this year as well. So he really used that, and he used like. The big thing was the $10 million film. It was shot by like a really famous director of photography, and it was like produced by Clint Eastwood. It's called Indian Horse, if any of you want to see it. And yeah, so he feels pretty good about, having done the film.
I'm curious to why you made what's the purpose of you making the film? Like, obviously you made the film for a purpose, and I'm curious to why you chose that purpose for making the film.
I don't really think that narratives have like a necessary. I don't think narratives have a general purpose, especially in film. I think in film the most you can do is sort of explore a theme. So I was exploring kind of a feeling of loneliness in terms of being in between 2 cultures, and that's all I was trying to explore. I wasn't really trying to make any grand statements or anything. Yeah.
Do you think there's anything, not to simplify it, but relatively simplistic that somebody like me, super white girl from the middle of Minnesota, born and raised, can do to help in kind of connecting people like you or anyone who deals with that kind of 2 worlds? I mean, I think in any aspect we all kind of in some way, shape, or form can feel that way depending on our circumstances, but is there a way that the average person can try to reach out and connect that doesn't try to invalidate your culture in which I don't understand or we may not understand in a way that doesn't make you feel like you're kind of on the spot as like the token Native American or whatever in that aspect?
Yeah, that's a tough question. I don't know. I mean, I mean, just being open to everybody. I mean, you don't need to necessarily seek out the token, whatever kind of person is in the group, but just being kind and whatever. If a person wants a friend, they'll pursue that friendship if they know how.
We probably have time for one more question or 2, and then are there other questions out there?
so at the end, your character goes to the cornfield. Did he intentionally go there? Like, was his intentions to go to the teepee, or did he just see it on the side of the road?
He saw it on the side of the road and pulled over. That was kind of my intention, yeah.
I just want to follow up before you close, Tracy, with Chi Miigwech, a big thank you, Lyle. You're incredibly talented and incredibly humble from my perspective, and it's going to be fun to watch you continue to grow, and I look forward to seeing the rest of your films and hearing more about the work that you do. I think you're incredibly talented, and just want to publicly say that because I don't know that you would ever give yourself that pat on the back because of who you are. But this was just really powerful, so I just want to say publicly thank you.
Thank you.
If you'd like to hang around and ask Lyle, I'm sure he'd be open to some last questions that maybe you didn't want to ask in front of the crowd. Thank you so much for coming today. Next month we have Abby Eden talking about her time with the Peace Corps in Colombia. Thanks. Have a good day.
If you ever need anything and want to showcase any of your work, I would be happy to. So was that part of your story?